So first of all, I'll introduce everybody. But Tim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great after Saturday. Really excited for next Sunday, and obviously happy to find. I guess not finally get a playoff win, but finally get to an AFC Championship game with Lamar and in Baltimore. It's been many decades, so
Yeah,
not
in
for
our whole
yeah
lifetime, we've never hosted a conference championship as the
yeah
Ravens. So
longest drought for a city between
yeah,
games. There are cities that haven't had one, but
yeah, that's true. But I'm excited. It'll be interesting to see if Taylor comes to town or not, and see it with all the or the the
he
Kelsey.
probably will.
Yeah, they probably all were gonna come, probably get a box or something. They seem to have a good time.
Yeah, extra security.
Buffalo. Champ, we're gonna bring you in next. Champ, what were you doing on a Monday podcast or video, or what were you rated in? I'm excited to see you and see your raid.
Yeah, so we normally do the podcast when it's not a pay-per-view on Sundays, but yesterday I just wasn't feeling it. Not that I haven't been feeling good physically, mentally haven't been there. You know that I lost my dad last month, and then got the news that my girlfriend's dad passed away Saturday. So double jeopardy on my son, losing both of his grandparents and grandfathers in the span of a month. So I just said, you know what, we're going to do a Monday pod. And I said, you know what, it'll be perfect because then once I'm done with the Monday pod, I raid in and then I come in and I do this pod and stuff like that. So this probably gonna be a one-time thing. I'm not gonna do it again because doing two pods in one day is exhausting.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I thought in your honor, I was trying to find something to watch tonight, and so I actually have Raw on in the background, and I know that you usually watch the replays. I don't know if you're watching it live or uh
Mm-mm.
you if you're recording it, but it's cool to
Yeah,
see.
I'm recording it.
Yeah, I won't say anything too much, but I'm watching CM Punk do a promo, so we'll just leave it at that. Which shouldn't give anything away since that's not surprising in the
Well,
league.
he teased on his
Spoiler
Instagram
alert.
story. He teased on his Instagram story that he was going to go face to face with Cody Rhodes. So I kind of know what that's all about. I just can't. I just want to. I can't wait to hear what they're going to say to each other.
Yeah, they're in each other's face right now. So I'll leave that at that. But I thought I rarely put on wrestling in the background, but I figured tonight is that night. Especially I lured a wrestling podcast to rate me, so it was the right call, I guess. But I appreciate you for joining us. I'm sorry that you've been having a rough week. I know C4 was having a rough week as well. So but I appreciate you giving the time and coming on and joining us. And being a part of this discussion. It was a pretty exciting week for football. There's some really good games that we'll be breaking down. And Arun, our last guest of this roundtable, were you able to watch all these crazy games this weekend?
Yeah, I watched. I actually went to a bachelor party, but I did watch the game at the bachelor party, which is kind of hilarious.
That is kind of hilarious. There were some good games though. That's kind of still a fun party. So
Yeah,
yeah. All right. Well, let's go into it. I think we're gonna try to get this whole entire podcast into 2 hours. We haven't done it in a long time. But I think we can sort of get through these games pretty quick. I know that Tim's got an early morning, and I know that you guys are busy, and I know that Champ's now doing his second podcast. So we're gonna not speed run it, but not like spend a crazy amount on each of the games. But we're gonna start off with the Ravens, since Tim, you'll have to know it was tied 10-10 at halftime, and I was about to go out on a date night. And I went through my closet and I found this jacket and I put it on,
Oh,
and suddenly they played a whole lot better in the second half. So I'm now keeping it sacred, and I will only wear it during games. But
yeah, keep it going as long as it works.
exactly.
Now, good luck.
Yeah, so I'm happy that I found it because I hadn't worn it the whole year until that game. So, but
You must have some old Joe Flacco luck or something.
old like a left and they go. So, I it was a really so I caught bits and pieces of this game because I was transporting my children to my parents' house. They were doing an overnight there, and then I went to a date night, but I did get to watch big chunks of it, and I do shout out to YouTube TV for allowing me to
Yeah.
watch it on the go in a way that would have been very difficult otherwise. But just I thought that they played a really good first half, kind of feeling out half. I know that it was tied 10-10, but the defense only allowed 3 points. Unfortunately, a special teams mistake allowed,
Yeah.
7 more. But I thought that they played well, especially with a lot of their starters and big primetime people being, not playing a meaningful game in 2 weeks. And then you're thrust into against a team that just played a really great game the week before in a tough environment. And so, that can be tough. It's set up as a trap game. A lot of people were discounting both 1 seeds, seeing all the craziness in the wild card weekend. And in the end, both 1 seeds win. But I thought it was kind of a good thing that they didn't show all their cards in the first half. And then they just sort of bunkered down and just, played a solid game. Not that they didn't play solid defense in the first half, but the offense kind of found their groove. And I was talking to someone today, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I kind of like the fact that they didn't show all the cards in the sense that the other team couldn't make adjustments at halftime. And so they don't necessarily know what's coming. And then,
Yeah.
I thought that they, in the second half, pulled out some tricks and they couldn't adjust on the fly. And I think that seemed to work in their favor. What were some of your thoughts on some of that?
Yeah, the Texans, I would say their defensive game plan in the first half was great because they just said, we're going to blitz 70% of the time. And let's just see if Lamar will take sacks, or is he going to hold the ball too long and try to throw deep? And in the first half, it mostly worked. The Texans got several sacks, and the Ravens were only able to score 10 points. Obviously, the offense was really disappointed at halftime. The defense was great the whole game, but the offense really didn't get it going into the second half. And I think it was just, number one, they didn't really do a lot of Lamar design runs until the second half. And that was new really from really the whole season. They haven't done a lot of that to keep him healthy. So I think that really surprised the Texans. And the second thing was they still tried to blitz in the second half, but he just kept picking them apart, short and intermediate routes.
I thought they did some good job with the screen game to counterbalance some of that, blitzing, and also just getting it out and then, vertical,
quick release.
Quick horizontal routes that gets them moving upfield, so not running into the heart of the defense, and then, it's setting up play action that Lamar can then, pretend to give it away and then hold it with a designed run, as you were talking about, where at that point they're so off, kilter that they don't really know how to defend it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think on defense, Stroud, he's a great quarterback. I'm still impressed. I mean, he wasn't great that game, but he wasn't bad, and he doesn't turn the ball over. He throws the ball away when he should. It's just, I don't want to say he was nervous, but he hasn't really seen that type of blitz and pressure a lot this season, and their offense really just couldn't match the intensity in the second half. And if you think about it, that special teams play, I mean, it was a great return. It was a bad punt. If you take that out of the game, the Texans really didn't do much. It could have been
kind of a
bigger blowout. Yeah. But I mean, I was nervous at halftime. I mean,
yeah, I was too. I didn't know what to expect. It was really cute. So Zach and my dad watched the second half of the game while we were
nice.
Dinner. So he was so excited that they won, and so that was kind of cool that he got to share that with
great.
my dad. And so I just, I don't know. I'm really happy about it. I really think the atmosphere, you can't say enough about, what
all the false starts
do, with the false starts. And really, I think that had a huge impact of the game. And I think I'm going to be curious to see if it has the same level of impact on Kansas City. Now they've been to like 6 championships now, so they've been
probably much less. It won't help them, but
I still think that they haven't experienced being in an adverse crowd as often in the championship game. A lot of those, I believe, were at home, if I remember correctly.
All of them, yeah. First 5 were at home.
Yeah.
Mahomes won 3 out of 5. That's good. I mean, but this is different. And I mean, Buffalo's crowd was great. I mean, possibly as good, or
For
as
sure.
Baltimore, so they're used to it. But also, I just think the Ravens are probably a better team overall, and they're more rested, so that'll help. But I mean, Kansas City, they're champions. I mean, you could, how could you be surprised if they just ran the table and no one expected it? But I think they're more banged up. I saw a lot of injuries in the Buffalo Kansas City game, so we'll see who plays, but they're not the freshest team right now.
Yeah. All right. I want to get Ken and Arun's thoughts on this game as well. So I'll go to Ken first. What were your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, Baltimore looked real dicey in that first half. They had three straight 3-and-out drives after they had that field goal, and then they had the punt return touchdown that happened. So it was looking really dicey for them when they went in the half tied 10-10. But then, and apparently Lamar mentioned this in the post-game presser, that he was the one that gave the pep talk at halftime with a lot of expletives. And apparently that woke the team up because they had four straight scoring drives. All four of their drives, 4 of their 5 drives in the second half were scoring drives, 3 touchdown drives and 1 field goal drive. Whereas the defense stepped up and Houston couldn't do anything. This is a rare subpar game for CJ Stroud, who's having a rookie of the year season at quarterback. But this is a rare misfire for him. Didn't throw a single touchdown pass and had a very poor quarterback rate of 72.2. And the offense as a whole for Houston just didn't show up at this game, whereas Baltimore woke up in the second half, found their mojo, and ended up just getting it done. Lamar Jackson, me and Tim said this during the game in our group chat, that I think that Lamar Jackson may have sealed his MVP win with this performance: 150 in the air and 100 on the ground, 4 total touchdowns for Baltimore. And I think Baltimore has all the momentum, and it's going to be hostile and lit when they hit for the AFC Championship game on Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great matchup. I'm very excited about this game. Davey's in chat, and he was talking about that they only scored 3 points on offense. Their touchdown was a defensive score. That sums it up right there. They had to run the ball better if they were going to beat Baltimore, but it's hard to run against Baltimore. They're just such a solid defense all the way through. It's like what I would hope for and hope that the Commanders try to emulate going forward. Just because I find it's kind of hard to run against them. They've got, they blitz so much. They've got pretty good pass defenders. It's it'll just be interesting to see. I think that obviously Travis Kelce is such a dominant figure in the postseason. They'll have to keep him down, but it'll be interesting to see the matchups for sure. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this game?
It was very similar to the week 1 matchup, even though it was a lot of time had passed. Like even that game in the first half, it was 7-6, and Ken said that CJ Stroud didn't throw a touchdown in this game. CJ Stroud didn't throw a touchdown in that game. I think the Ravens are probably a little bit rusty. Like they rested their starters or a lot of their players in their Steelers game, and they had a bye week, so maybe that explains like the first half. And the Texans defense, it's a little bit underrated too, but I think the Ravens made the necessary adjustments, as Tim alluded to. They ran the ball very well. And Zay Flowers, he made like a lot of great catches, likely had a key touchdown. Definitely sets up an interesting matchup for the conference championship.
Yeah. I think that's a good segue. Let's talk about the other side of the AFC bracket. I think it's just easier to talk that way, and then we can talk about the NFC. So this game between Buffalo and Kansas City was an incredible game. I just feel so bad for Kansas City or for Buffalo, just continuously losing to Kansas City every time. The field goal, just my heart broke when that happened. I really thought that they were gonna find a way this year. I thought the last couple of seasons they were going to, but Tim, talk a little bit about the end of this game. You talked already about the atmosphere, but just I thought this was a pretty great game all the way through.
It was a great game. The one thing that was odd to me was really the first, I would say 2.5 quarters. Both teams were just trading scores. there wasn't a punt in this game until almost halftime. So we thought, or everybody, I think, thought it was going to be like a 50-47 game. But then all of a sudden, the last quarter, both defenses really stepped it up and forced a lot of stops. You had the terrible, terrible fake punt, one of the worst playoff calls I've seen because it was just like a nothing run. You had the fumble in the end zone, out of the end zone, which apparently a lot of people didn't know that rule, so that's controversial too. And
Which is
then
funny
you
because it's already
also,
happened twice this year that I've
yeah,
seen.
it's not crazy rare. I've seen it before.
Yeah.
Actually, it happened in a Baltimore versus Washington game where Baltimore intercepted it, but then fumbled like that.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, I feel terrible for Buffalo to lose on a kick like that because it's just historical and painful for that city. But they need to give, sorry, dogs outside. They need to give Allen more weapons, I think. I think Diggs is probably gonna leave Buffalo and isn't very happy there. And even with him, and he's great, they need more, I think, on offense and defense. Their defense was hurt and they didn't have a lot of rest. But on offense, they just need a few more playmakers and just, like even when Allen plays an A- game like last night, very good game, they still can't beat KC. So it's like they got to do more around him to win a Super Bowl because the AFC is stacked. So I feel bad for them, but they're right there, but they're always like, one play short.
Your fans are so die hard they were feeding a pit with people. Did you hear about this story? Where somebody fell into a pit and they won. So then they lined up to fall into a pit to try to get the juju right. So the people fell
That's
into the
crazy.
pit and they still lost. I'm like, oh god. So it's just like you can't make this shit up. But like they're some of the most diehard fans. Bills Mafia.
Yeah,
Like,
they like break tables and stuff,
yeah. God, I feel for
but
them.
they don't win though.
I feel like they got a Canadian jinx too, because I feel like Canada kind of roots for them as like
Oh
a
yeah, they have a lot of Canadian fans because it's so
yeah,
close. Plus, they played in Toronto before.
yeah,
That's not helping.
yeah, for sure. Ken, what were some of your thoughts on this matchup?
First of all, Jason Kelsey is a wild dude being in a KC hat and jumping in the middle of those fools,
Did
but
you
he
see
has
him
no
taking a
fear.
bowling ball shot before the game
I
with
saw
all the
that. I
fans?
said, I said, Jason Kelsey is living his best life now that he's retired. He's living his best life. He don't care. Anyway, so another thing that was historic about this game was the fact that in this game, Mahomes and Kelsey tied and then broke the record for most touchdowns by a quarterback tight end duo. The record was previously 15 by Tom Brady and Gronk, but now Kelsey and Mahomes stand alone at 16. Think about that. That's in 6 years that Pat Mahomes has been in the league and has made playoffs. 6 years, and they've accumulated 16 touchdown hookups. That's crazy. Also, big shout out to Isaiah Pacheco, who had a really good game running, came 3 yards short of a 100-yard game, 100-yard day, had 15 rushes for 97 yards and a touchdown. Buffalo just got burnt, just so unlucky with that wide right. It seems like that's a forever curse with this team. In big spots, it goes wide right, and they fall short. But it sets up a great matchup with Kansas City going from one hostile territory of Buffalo and Bills Mafia to an even more hostile territory in Baltimore and that rabid fan base. I wonder if Mahomes got the magic to try to get through that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I want the Ravens to win so bad, but I'm just so nervous with having they just have so much history and the knowledge that they need and that experience. Like it's just none of that can be discounted. No matter even if there's different players, injuries, whatever, but like as a group that they have that belief, right? And so it's a tough thing to try to snuff out. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on that Kansas City Buffalo game?
Yeah, both teams, even the Bills, they kind of slowed down in the second half. They couldn't really run the ball as much with Allen. The Chiefs made that adjustment, and then I think that punt was really bad. That special teams punt that Tim was talking about, where the Chiefs only had 10 players on the field, and they still couldn't get the yardage necessary to. It was just a terrible play. It's like up with that Jim Zorn like punt pass against the Giants, and the Chiefs kind of let them hang in the game with that fumble by McCole Hardman. Not like they have Isaiah Pacheco who didn't play in the first game, and then like he was just running all over the Bills, and they gave it to Hardman, probably trying to get a little bit too cute. And even Mahomes had an opportunity before that. They had like a 3-and-out. And Allen missed a critical play on second down to Stephon Diggs was wide open, overthrew the other target. Maybe he was hit, but that was probably the difference of the game. And yeah, he missed a field goal, but I think the Chiefs had a really good chance to win. They've scored with 13 seconds on the clock against Buffalo in the past. So uh, yeah, the Chiefs winning. They kind of kept it closer with that fumble, and maybe they got a little bit of a chance, kind of even out with that punt play, which was really awful. So I'm glad that wasn't the complete difference, but the field goal, uh, missing wide right again, like they did against the Giants in the Super Bowl, that's got to sting. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they're going on to play in the conference championship.
Yeah. Davey has a lot of great points that he was making in chat. One of them, he's saying the Chiefs winning that game hurt me. I wanted more Bills Mafia in the playoffs. Yeah, I love them, but I also think that they would have traveled a lot more to Baltimore. So like, I'm kind of in some ways happy that it's against Kansas City. Not that Kansas City fans don't travel, but I kind of see it being more Baltimore heavy because of that. Um, uh so anyway, he said he got away with it because Davey said earlier he did, Tim. He got away with it because of that fumble. He said McDermott is the worst, and the run game could use help among other things. So and he also said he went to see them at the Chargers and saw the table jump firsthand in a parking lot in LA. So that's kind of funny. But yeah, yeah, so I'm hoping to maybe get Davey on to recap these two conference finals games next week, and maybe even talk caps with us as well. This I want to get your final thoughts on this matchup, and then we'll go to the other side of the bracket. Champ, what are your thoughts on this AFC Championship game?
I mean, on paper, it has all the makings to be an absolute dogfight between a team that was the best team in the league this year and a team that has been to the AFC Championship game 6 years in a row. Uh, and I mean, it has all the hallmarks of being a great shootout, but you have to think about something. And I wanted to mention this earlier, and I didn't. It hit my mind, and I forgot to mention it. Baltimore historically has had one of the best defenses in the league, going back to the days of Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs and all of them and Ed Reed. So Baltimore's always had a great defense, and they're going to find a way to lock down Patrick Mahomes and lock down Kelsey and stop the run with Pacheco. But at the same time, is Kansas City's defense going to be able to stand up to Lamar Jackson and the dual threat that he poses and things like that? Hard to say. But if I had to pick a team that's going to go to the Super Bowl, I have to go with Baltimore here because Mahomes hasn't been putting up the numbers that he normally puts up. He's been putting up very average numbers for what he usually brings to the table. And I think if he continues to bring those average numbers against the Baltimore defense like this, they're not going to make another Super Bowl. I think Baltimore makes the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah. Arun, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, the Ravens haven't played the Chiefs since 2021, which is kind of incredible, but according at least to the football database. And
Yeah, it's correct.
It's correct, and Baltimore won that game.
yeah, so but the
Yeah.
Chiefs have won. They won, I think, the last 4 games before that. But I don't know,
Yeah.
like maybe 3 of the 4 that Lamar's played in, I guess.
Lamar's 1-4 against them. But yeah, the last one was a win.
Yeah. I think this game's like a toss up, like the Bills Chiefs game. I might just take the points with the Chiefs, and also like Carroll talks about how the NBA is rigged. There might be some questionable calls to get Taylor Swift back to the Super Bowl or get her in the Super Bowl. Maybe she'll make a halftime appearance or something. So we'll see if that happens. There's like some really dubious calls for the Chiefs.
Last time Baltimore Kansas City played, it was September 19, 2021. Baltimore won 36-35. For you gamblers out there, line is already up at 3.5 for the Ravens' favor.
Mm-hmm. So Tim, we do have a question from Davey for the panel. I'll ask it in a second, but Tim, give us your thoughts on this game first, and then I'll ask Davey's question.
I think I agree with both Arun and Champ here. I wouldn't be shocked, obviously, if either team won, because I think it's going to be close. I think the line is close for a reason. I just obviously I'm biased. The reason I'm going to pick the Ravens in this game is I just think it's everybody talks about quarterback versus quarterback, but really it's boring. But it's going to come down to like the trenches and who can push the other team around and who can possess the ball longer. And Kansas City has a very good defense. But I just think the Ravens are stronger, D line and O line, and that extra rest is going to help in this game, especially in the second half, because I think Pacheco and the Chiefs can run the ball a little bit, but I just think the Ravens' physicality will probably be the difference in a close game.
I think it'll be tough to have just gone to Buffalo and then now turn around and play Baltimore. And also, talking about rest, Baltimore got to play on Saturday. And so I think that could help them as well. I know it's only one day, but that could still make a difference, and they don't have to travel, where Kansas City will have to travel back to Kansas City and then back to Baltimore again. So it's a lot of moving back and forth. So Davey's question for the panel: will McDermott coach next year? Is the question. So I'll start off with you, Arun. Do you think the coach of the Bills will be a coach next year?
He could get fired, but I'm going to guess he did enough to save his job. He did more than Mike McCarthy did anyway, so I'm guessing he keeps his job.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I'll ask Ken, what are your thoughts?
I think he's back next year. I mean, the Bills made the playoffs as division champs. They had a pretty good season, and as Arun alluded to, I think it was enough for him to get a 1-year reprieve before being let go. So I think he's back next season.
Tim?
I'm just going to disagree and say Bill Belichick's going to be their coach, because it would be a cool story if he went back to the his old division.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still technically available, right? I guess Atlanta's close, but if I was him and I could choose, I want Buffalo's roster.
Yeah, no,
and I want to beat the Patriots twice a year. So
beat the Patriots twice a year. They're close because they're not so far away, and maybe he's the one who can get them over the mental thing, get a different kicker and a couple other players. I mean, Buffalo's not that far away. That's always a tough place to be, where that your team is just a couple of moves away. You make a couple wrong moves, you regress, but a couple right moves, and who knows, maybe you're in the Super Bowl. And so a lot of these teams have come together pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see where Bill Belichick ends up going. I do think he's going to stay for another year, but I do like Tim's shout there. I heard a lot of teams are actually looking at Bill Belichick right now. I know the Falcons are, and there's a couple other ones that there's rumor to be interviewing them as well. So it'll be interesting to see where that ends up. Thank you for the question, Davey. Yeah, it's always fun. And if people didn't know this, I feel like we do it very rarely, but there's always a 100-point channel redeem. If people ever want to ask a question, I try to pay attention to those questions that people ask there of the panel. We just ask that they are about the topic that we are talking about as the only caveat. I know on Davey's channel, if you want to go check out that great interview channel over there, you can ask him and his panelists about almost anything. So a little bit different Yeah, of course. So let's flip gears. To about 25 minutes left. We'll talk about the NFC side of it. The 49ers versus the Green Bay game, I thought was a great game. You always kind of have to throw out the records when those two teams play in the playoffs. And I was happy that the 49ers got the win. I was hoping to talk to Anna tonight, but she's feeling a little under the weather, so she couldn't join us for our Caps talk. We were going to do a Caps talk and then have her be here for the first part, but then we obviously rearranged the segment a little bit. But Tim, what were some of your thoughts on that Green Bay versus the 49ers game?
This was a great game. I thought Green Bay should have won this game. They're not the better team. San Francisco is definitely a better team, but the 49ers almost fell trapped to the 1 seed. Russ. And if I obviously we talk about bad kickers, and the theme was at least 3 of the games kickers really screwed up. That kick that Carlson missed was huge, obviously, for the Packers. If they make that, they likely won. The 49ers lost Deebo Samuels. That's huge for next week, I think. And they almost lost because of that this week. They just need to play a lot stronger in the first half. I mean, it's understandable, like the Ravens, they were rusty, but you gotta give a shout out to the Packers to get this far. Nobody thought they would, and they don't look so bad for trading Rodgers now. And I think they have a good future, but San Francisco won. I think the weather probably helped Green Bay a little bit, but the only other thing I'll say about this game is it didn't seem very loud, which maybe was just there's so many Packers fans, but I just didn't feel like it was a great home advantage.
Yeah, that 52-yard field goal at the beginning of the fourth quarter, I thought was really important at the time it was 21-14 and it got to 21-17. And then obviously at the very end, McCaffrey rushed to the right for a 6-yard touchdown, which I thought was just a really strong run that ultimately gave them the win. But I thought that making that field goal was kind of a turning point in this game, because at the time, Jordan Love had just got a touchdown. And they got the 2-point conversion to go up 21-14, which I thought was pretty big at the time. So it was kind of good to see San Francisco kind of bounce back there. Champ, I'm going to refill my water, but give me your thoughts on this matchup, and then after you, Arun, give me your thoughts.
All right, so this is probably the best game of the weekend in my opinion because of how closely contested it was. Christian McCaffrey scoring 2 rushing touchdowns in the second, coming with just over a minute to go in the game, which proved to be the game winner. Brock Purdy played well with 252 yards in the air and the 1 touchdown. He did get sacked once. Jordan Love, a pretty subpar game for him, as he's played well pretty much the entire season, but 21-34 for 194 yards. He did have 2 passing touchdowns, 1 to Melton and 1 to Kraft, but he also threw 2 picks, including the one that he threw towards the end of the game that basically sealed it for San Francisco. So big dagger there, and something that the young man will learn from. But all in all, I think San Francisco proved why they were the number 1 seed in the NFL playoffs with the way they played. Green Bay, very, very tough loss to swallow, but a really good season for them, coming off a really average season the season before, but now they have something to build upon. Jordan Love is proving that he was well worth being drafted and sitting under the learning tree of Aaron Rodgers. Now he can go out there and be the next franchise quarterback for the Packers. And I honestly think that the sky's the limit for Green Bay, but San Francisco now will be hosting an NFC Championship game, and it looks like it's an exciting time for the folks in the good old area of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, Arun, what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, Tim alluded to it. The 49ers came out kind of flat in the first half, and even more surprising, they came out really flat and right out in the third quarter, and they were outscored 15-7. Deebo Samuel was a big loss for the 49ers. Like, I think that may have even probably should have given the Packers the edge, but I think turnovers were the big thing, as Ken alluded to, 2 interceptions by the Packers, but more importantly, 0 turnovers for the 49ers. Uh, I think both teams, they could have easily argued to run the ball more because only 18 carries for Aaron Jones, and they had 34 passing attempts for Jordan Love, and same with the 49ers, 39 passing attempts for Brock Purdy, only 17 carries for Christian McCaffrey, especially with Debo out, although the 49ers were trailing, so they obviously had to pass him more. But I think Aaron Jones had a great game, 108 yards, 6 yards a carry, and would have been nice. I agreed that I probably was rooting for the Packers, but I picked the 49ers to win, and they barely did it. Even maybe they shouldn't even done it. Like, the Packers are that good as the youngest team to ever win a playoff game. They're probably a team of the future, but right now is not their time due to their special teams and some critical turnovers.
Yeah. I'm happy the 49ers won, but I'm also very happy that Green Bay had a really great playoff run. So, I owe them everything for getting rid of, obviously, in the previous week with the Cowboys. So, and they're a great young team, and I think that they are going to be a team that people are going to have to deal with for years to come. That division was brutal this year. It's going to be my segue to the Lions, who won their game. It was really impressive to see sort of Lions and Green Bay to be some of the strongest teams, because people were looking at the Eagles and the Cowboys, and there's a big question, is the NFC East is better or the NFC North is better? But obviously it's been answered here. The North is the superior division. I thought it was a really great matchup with the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers gave them all that they could handle. It was back and forth. They went field goal for field goal in the first, and then touchdown for touchdown in the second, and then touchdown for touchdown again in the third. So, it's tied at the end of each of the different quarters. And then, the fourth quarter at the end there, they got 2 touchdowns, and then Tampa Bay comes back, and it actually looks like they're going to make a run to even, maybe make a run at the very end there. They were only down 8 points at that point. But I just thought it was a really great game, great atmosphere for Lions, the Lions fans there. But Tampa Bay put together a great game as well. Tim, what were some of your thoughts on this one?
I just think the Lions have a great coach. Dan Campbell, he's a very unique coach, the way that he motivates the team, and he's very positive. The Lions didn't play great in the first half. Even in the third quarter, I think they fell behind for a little bit. So this was a very nip and tuck game, but I had a lot of confidence in the Lions in the second half because Campbell did the halftime interview, and it was tied, like you said. Obviously, when you're the home team and you're the higher seed and you're tied at half, you feel like you're losing because that's not what's expected of your team. And he was just 100% positive. He just said, everything's fine. We expected them to come here and play hard. Mayfield's a good player, but we're just going to do what we've practiced to do the entire season, and we're going to go out and have fun. And I bet we're going to win. It's just like, even in a playoff game, he's not nervous. He's not rattled. He's not like telling the players like that, this is the end. Like, just whatever the Cowboys coach is doing, he's doing the opposite of that, basically. So, because the teams feed off the energy of the coach. I think there's coaches that make their teams nervous, and those teams underperform. And just look at what Detroit has done in history. They haven't been to the NFC Championship in decades, and they've only been to like 2 or something. So it's special for the city. And now Michigan has the national champion in college, and maybe a Super Bowl team. And it's not, Michigan's always been good, but that's a special year for them.
I wanted to announce that Scorebot just said that Arizona Cardinals scored over the Penguins. The Penguins had tied it up 2-2. That made it 3-2. And that's now the end of the second period, going into that second intermission. They still have a 1-goal lead in that one. So thank you, Scorebot, for that. Yeah, I like him. He's a very fiery coach. He takes a lot of risks, which is good and bad. It's very exciting as a fan. I love it. Whether or not it's going to screw him in the end. Carroll seems to think a lot of times taking so many risks isn't so good. It did work out for him in a couple of instances in this game, but it is definitely he is riverboat Ron, times two, if you will, taking even more risks than I think Ron even did with us. Champ, what are some of your thoughts on the coach and in this game in general?
It's so funny how this coach went from a scapegoat when Detroit went for two multiple times against Dallas to now having a 1 win away from hitting Las Vegas in a Super Bowl. It's amazing how football works, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Now for the game. Detroit has shown such an improvement. It's hard to believe that this is a team who went 0-16 over a decade ago, and now they are on the precipice of a Super Bowl. And this is their first NFC, this is their first conference championship appearance since I was 8 years old. It's been 33 years since this team made it to a conference championship. And now they are going to have a chance, but it's not going to be easy taking on San Francisco. But I think that they have the tools, they have the weapons, and they have the will to really go head up with San Francisco in San Francisco. I think it's going to be a very good game. But this game here, Baker Mayfield was throwing it all over the yard. So was Jared Goff. It was a lot of passing, not a lot of running. But Goff with the 2 touchdown passes. Mayfield had 3 of them, but he also had 2 interceptions, to include a crucial one late in the game. That catch by Mike Evans that led to a touchdown for Tampa Bay. That catch by Mike Evans was absolutely insane. That dude is absolutely a beast. And that he ended up getting 56 receiving yards in 2 plays on that drive, leading to a touchdown. Absolutely insane. But congrats to the Lions and good luck next week.
Yeah, Evans went to Texas A&M. He was an Aggie, and I rooted for him a lot in college. So he was one of my wife's favorite players, and when he played there. So definitely, he's definitely an amazing player and a Super Bowl champion. Arun, what are some of your thoughts?
I was really surprised, kind of like how well the Bucks offense played. Like in the previous matchup, they only scored 7 points or something like that. I think it was like 20-7. In this game, like Baker Mayfield, he did have a big passing game, but he also had a couple interceptions. And that, as Tim alluded to, that 4th down play, was kind of a big call to make. Like I was surprised it went for it, and I've kind of done like almost a 180 on Campbell's coaching career because he came in with the Dolphins. He seemed kind of not really that much of a like smart offensive mind, but I think maybe Ben Johnson as an offensive coordinator, he's helped him out. And they just have a lot of offensive weapons. Gibbs, Montgomery's like probably as good as any 1-2 running backs, and Jared Goff, he's really turned it around. And Armon St. Brown, he's like a great number 1. Slam Laporta, the upcoming tight end, and even Jamison Williams and Reynolds, they're pretty good 2 and 3 wide receivers. So it looks like they were clicking on all cylinders, even though Tampa Bay had a great game. But I think that, we'll see what happens next week. The Lions certainly have enough offensive weapons to hang with the 49ers.
Yeah, Adrian just entered chat, a good friend of ours, challenging all of us in a game of Mario Kart, and he invited Arun's dog, and so I wanted to see if Lily was also invited. She is passed out over here, but I thought I would give a one moment of a Lily cam over here. But welcome on.
Hey, Adrian, I'll dog you in Mario Kart, bruh.
I want to
dog you.
He's
All
pretty
right.
good.
No, Adrian, I
He's
don't
pretty
know. I got
elite.
my buddy on Adrian.
Yeah, Adrian's really good. He's beat all of us.
Well, see, I'm from the old school Mario thing. I'm not with the new school Mario. If it was old school Mario, I'd dog you.
I don't know. His best one is a double dash, so that's what he was famous for. So
Yeah, I'm good at Mario Kart, and Adrian would dust me too. So
yeah, exactly. So um, so that's I appreciate you for joining us, Adrian. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting matchup. I like what the Lions bring to the table. I think they're gonna be a really hard out for the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm gonna go and ask Arun first. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
yeah, like with Debo Samuel's out, like I'm kind of like initially I was like, well, the Lions, they've never been here before. Oh yeah, I want to shout out that now the Washington Commanders have the longest streak of not being to a conference championship. I forgot to mention that.
Awesome.
And then
Fuck.
yeah, I thinking I don't know, like maybe the 49ers kind of bounce back. Vegas certainly doesn't think they're gonna lose. They're favored by like 7.5 points, which I think is pretty big. So I guess I'm leaning towards the 49ers, even though I want to pick an upset. And I got to dig more into that spread. Like, seems like kind of a trap. So maybe I might even take the 49ers spread, go against like common sense.
Yeah, I don't know. Adrian's all very worried about Tim. I'm sure Tim's fine. So, I think he might be getting a drink or something. But I like this story. Yeah, I don't know what to really make of this matchup. I mean, it's obviously the 49ers have been great all year, but there's been moments where I think that they, it could be taken. Ken, what are some of your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, I'm with Arun here. It's kind of hard to pick a winner because both of these teams are coming in red hot. You have two very, very talented quarterbacks, Brock Purdy, who, come on, guys. 2023 NFL draft, he was Mr. Irrelevant, and now he's about to play in the second straight conference game, even though his game last year was marred by a very serious injury and the lack of an emergency quarterback. I think that they would have probably went to the Super Bowl had he been healthy. But he's healthy. Hopefully, he stays healthy in this game, and that gives San Francisco a leg up. They're favored by 7. Detroit's coming in with a lot of momentum. Jared Goff's had a really good year. Their rookie tight end, Detroit, absolute beast. Absolute beast. And I think he's going to be an X factor he's going to be a hidden X factor for this game. Of course, everybody's going to have to focus on Amon St. Brown, but that rookie tight end is going to be somebody that's going to be be an X factor that I don't know if not Detroit, if San Francisco is going to truly account for him. He had a really good game against Tampa Bay. Hold on, I'm pulling up his stats. He had a really good game against Tampa Bay. Laporta, he had 9 catches for 65 yards, and I seen like he was a beast. So if San Francisco can lock down that receiving core and stop the run, I think that they can win this football game, and I think they'll end up in the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be a rematch from when John Harbaugh was going up again was when San Francisco when they had Colin Kaepernick. I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see San Fran versus Baltimore in the Super Bowl. But I would not be surprised. I would be actually happy if Detroit does make it because then that would be a great feel good story for Detroit to go from mediocrity to living large in Vegas, going for the richest prize in professional football.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit's story this year and sort of their rise, and they've been consistently really good for big chunks of it. They fell off for a couple of weeks, and they lost their chance at sort of that top spot and some questionable calls in that Dallas game. But I think the Lions are just got this underdog mentality that could be really dangerous. And I wouldn't shock me if they went into San Francisco and got a win. Tim, what are some of your thoughts?
I think if you use Arun's theory of all the games being fixed, the NFL wants to see Eminem versus Taylor Swift.
Oh
So
my
I think
God.
because that would be the best halftime show. I think if it's scripted, if it's all just like pre-written, maybe that would be the matchup. But even without that, I think Detroit can win because without Debo Samuel, they definitely have more. Well, I don't know if you'd say they probably have more weapons, and are a little bit more explosive right now. And I like you said, their story and they're the underdogs. They're going to play with a chip. And I think they could knock off San Francisco. So I'm going to pick them, and hopefully Eminem goes to that game. Um, goes to San Francisco.
Did he go this week? I know I saw him in the previous week, but I didn't.
I think he went to this game. Yeah, I don't know for sure though. I could be
Yeah.
He
wrong.
was there.
He was.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't
He's
see it. I felt like I saw more pictures from the first one. Um, but uh, but yeah, it'll definitely be an interesting matchup, for sure. All right, well, I'll go around the table and get anyone's final thoughts on the NFL playoffs as it is, thoughts for next week, or anything else they want to talk about. I'll start off with Tim because I know that he's got to get out of here. But Tim, what are your thoughts going into championship weekend?
I guess I'll end with something that's going to make everybody happy. I think we talked or Ken mentioned Lamar Jackson was cursing during his halftime speech and very angry. I think he was like, "We are not the motherfucking Cowboys. We are not the AFC Cowboys. We are not going out like this." So anyway, that's my theory on what he said.
Nice. I appreciate the theory. It's awesome to have you with us all season long talking about the Ravens. It's been, Carol always talked about this being a DC sports podcast, but I've always been a fan of the DMV teams, and so in his
That's my shout out to DC for DC fans.
yeah,
In case they get too
exactly.
bored of this, but
I appreciate it. No, I think, but I really love being able to follow both teams, and so I appreciate your insight and being able to help us break them down every week. And I hope that they continue to have success. It's been fun. It's weird to think about that. The last time they won was very early into my relationship with Liz, and it didn't even feel like it's almost, it's 10 years now, right? That it's been, since
11.
11. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
11.
11.
So,
Yeah.
that's kind of hard to believe, right? That it's been that long.
Yeah, time flies.
But
But
but it's been fun to have you
yeah.
on the show and helping us break it down. And hopefully we'll have you back on next week with some positive reporting.
Yeah, thanks guys. Have a good one.
All right,
I'll
sounds
talk
good.
to you soon.
All right, I'm gonna get Arun's thoughts real quick. Any final thoughts before we let you go today, Arun?
That RG3 Jay Gruden feud was really exciting. Nice back and forths going on. Today I learned actually for the first time, apparently RG3 supporters are called RG sexuals back in DC. So shout out to
What?
the biggest RG sexual I know, Carol, CP3. So signing out on that note.
Nice. Yeah, if people don't know the beef, it was pretty awesome last week. I know that Arun's always been our RG3 reporter. And it's pretty hilarious. I didn't even realize that he had a podcast, but that podcast was fire. He just went off on Gruden, and then Gruden just decided to write some like basically hateful shit. Sorry, it's 11. And it's just pretty funny to watch that sort of back and forth, and I'm interested to see if they continue. I hope Gruden does take him up on the offer and go on his show, but I just never see it happening. Arun, do you think that he would do it?
Jay Gruden actually has his own podcast too, but I think I don't know, like that YouTube video where I learned about RG sexual was also said RG3 is the most delusional player. Like that's the title of the YouTube video. He's the most delusional player ever. So I don't know if he'll ever be on. And that they have it's like kind of like the coaching staff had a lot of blame, but RG3 doesn't take like any accountability whatsoever. So like never learned how to slide or anything. So I mean, it's like it is what it is. It's good that RG3 had that one good season, but after that, it's probably good that they. Well, I don't know. It's always maybe RG3 is going to make a comeback with Bill Callahan's son with the Titans. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be something. I did be right that Gruden is a joke. Good for RG3. He's really good as an analyst during college football games too. I agree. I like RG3. He's made a great career for himself after that. I don't think RG3 is as great a player as he thinks he was in his mind. But I also think that Coach Gruden is pretty shitty coach and just did not do particularly well, in anything. And
But he did make the right decision with Kirk Cousins over RG3. That's just RG3 is probably bigger.
I guess so, but I mean, ultimately, we didn't win anything too significant. So yes,
I
he
mean,
had.
he's still in the league. I mean, those are like
I mean,
RG3
I
is
guess
not
that's
in the
fair,
league.
but also in some ways, he kind of ruined RG3 by like not putting
No,
him in.
that was Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan ruined RG3.
That's true. Yeah. Um.
And all those coaches, I mean, it's not they that all started like it's like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and all these guys. Like he's picking on Jay Gruden. He's not really going after Kyle Shanahan, as that video pointed out, which is kind of that's the guy you should be going after, Kyle Shanahan. But
Interesting.
he's about to coach. Maybe he might get to the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
he's really punching below his weight. Because Jay Gruden, yeah, he's not a great coach, but don't put you shouldn't put all the blame on Jay Gruden. It's like the Shanahans.
But it's funny because I was still reading that people were like, he's an offensive genius. They still believe that in Gruden. And I was like, I don't know how you can possibly think that. I was reading the whole article about how he should be picked up by somebody as an offensive coordinator because he's still really good. I was like, I don't know. It's hard for me to believe.
Oh,
Uh,
Ron Rivera also got an interview for the Eagles' defensive
I
coordinator job.
saw that. That would be interesting. Do you think that's
Since
a
we're
good
talking
fit?
about, hold on, since we're talking about, father son, Mike Shanahan, Bill Callahan's son just got hired as the Tennessee head coach. Brian Callahan, the former offensive coordinator for the Bengals. That's an interesting hire.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if what that ends up doing. But Arun, do you think that Riverboat Ron should be the defensive coordinator for the Eagles?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like he did coach a little bit better than Jack Del Rio. It'll be interesting. Maybe part of the staff. I would say maybe like defensive special assistant to the defensive coordinator. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. Defensive coordinator. I don't know. He's like, I think he's maybe take like a year off. Also, Ron Rivera, like kind of thing. Too.
but it seems like he's up there trying to get that job, so he doesn't
Yeah,
look.
it'd be a good job to get, and then he'd definitely be an upgrade over whatever they're running in Philadelphia. Although I think maybe we'll see. Like I think Rivera did get a head coaching job because he was a great defensive coordinator. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Champ, do you think he should take that job, or do you think? What are your thoughts?
As long as he's not here, I don't care what he does. Honestly, I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, I
But
kind of
you know what?
actually want to go against it. Like,
Yeah, no, I'm with Arun though. I would love to go against his defense and just smoke him and just be like, see, this is why your defense was ass. It wasn't the players, it was a scheme all along. Holy crap. Anyway, but no, I mean, if he wants to take the job, he should take the job and get back into being a coordinator and you know, things like that. I mean, Eagles defense, maybe they can use it, maybe they don't need to use it. Who knows? But only time will tell and only the opportunity can dictate what can happen.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, Arun, thank you for joining us. As always, we'll get your thoughts on the conference championships next week.
yeah, and I'll bring a Gilbert Arenas update next week. Thanks for
Nice.
having me on.
Sounds good. Appreciate you as always, Arun. All right, let me change up the graphics real quickly and put the no spots graphic up. And I have to say, I've been watching Raw this whole time. I won't spoil anything because I know you haven't seen it, but it's been an entertaining bunch of matches. And so let people know what you were talking about on the podcast you recorded right before this one. That people can go.
Well, one of the big stories that we talked about on the podcast was the unbelievable news that Kazuchika Okada, who was pretty much the face of New Japan Pro Wrestling, it was announced that he is leaving the promotion at the end of the month and becoming a free agent. He's been with the promotion since 2007. So he's been with the promotion for 17 years. Started there as a young lion, went through the dojo system, went on excursion to Mexico as well as the United States, including having a really crap gimmick in Impact Wrestling as a knockoff to the Green Hornets assistant. It was horrible. Trust me, you don't want to go and watch that. It was they absolutely had all the stereotypes. It was bad. And then he came back to Japan in 2012 and decided that he was going to go right after the biggest dog, which was Hiroshi Tanahashi at the time, who was the heavyweight champion. And that's when they had the Rainmaker shock, they called it, when he won the title in his first match back from Excursion. His first singles match back from Excursion, he won the IWGP heavyweight title over one of the biggest stars at that time, Hiroshi Tanahashi. And so with the announcement of his leaving, New Japan has altered their the cards for the New Beginning tour that started on Saturday. Now the Never Six-Man Tag Title match, in which Okada is 1/3 of the champions, that matchup against TMDK will now take place this week, actually on Wednesday instead of on February the 11th. And now February the 11th, 12 years after the Rainmaker shock, it's going to be Tanahashi versus Okada in Okada's final singles match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And he's still going to show up on the 23rd and 24th in Sapporo for his final 2 nights of action in New Japan before he goes on with his free agency. So now another big name is in the free agent pool for 2024. What we talked about on the podcast also was we did a recap of TNA Hard to Kill, which was last Saturday, and Sith and I gave our top 10 favorite matches of 2023. We did have 4 matches on there that we both had as favorites in our top 10. They were just in different places. We talked about that as well and did a full recap of everything that happened last week. We will be back this either Friday night or early Saturday with a preview of the Royal Rumble, which is this Saturday night, emanating from Tampa and Tropicana Field. We will also live stream react to the Royal Rumble on our Twitch channel as well. So we got a busy one coming up for you this weekend. So make sure you check us out, twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod.
Yep, I'm giving one of the shout outs. Definitely, if you want more wrestling coverage, make sure that you are following over there. And yeah, True No Spots Pod on Twitch. But you can always get the podcast partners button, sportsothp.com. Click the podcast partners button, get the No Spots podcast there. Once the audio is up, you can also click on Team Sports OTHP, and it gives you the link to Champ, and it has his bio and all of his different socials and information there as well. So, or you can just click the little follow icon that's just appearing if you're watching live on Twitch. But yeah, it's a lot of fun and exciting stuff in the world of wrestling right now. Royal Rumble is always one of my favorite events, so definitely have to check that out. I want to thank you for wearing the Sports OTHP shirt. If people want to go check that out, I'm wearing one from that series as well. And yeah, you can get that on our website as well on the merch section. So it's been a fun podcast. Thank you, Champ, as always, for coming through and being a part of it. I think that we'll have a really fun show next week. Maybe we'll have Davey join us, and maybe he'll even bring a sandwich. And so we'll also hopefully have the return of Anna Knox if San Francisco wins, and some other guests as well. So it should be a really fun show. This has been episode 328, Cap's Good Homestand. We previewed their upcoming road stand and their lead up to the NHL All-Star game. And we also talked about the wild card weekend divisional round recap and the conference championship previews. Appreciate everyone for tuning in and being a part of this. We're going to end the audio podcast here. Any final thoughts before we end it, Champ?
Just good luck to the final 4 teams this weekend. Hopefully we get some really good competitive games. No, we don't get no blowouts, and it's exciting. And hopefully this weekend's Royal Rumble, I hope we get at least 3 really good surprise entrants in both the men's and women's Royal Rumbles. Those are what make it so exciting, is who's going to be the surprise entrant that just shows up out of nowhere and gets in there. So excited for this weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend. So thank you very much for having me. No Sayonara.
All right, thank you, everyone. We're DC Sports Without the Politics, Sports on the Hill podcast. Let's go Caps. Let's go Wizards. We didn't talk about them this week. They had a rough week, but maybe if they do better next week, we'll find some time for them. But I'm excited. We got some Defenders coverage coming up in the upcoming weeks that we'll be breaking down as well. So lots of fun stuff on this winter edition of Sports on the Hill podcast. Hope you guys all have a great week. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Recording stopped.
Recording, and we are out on Facebook. Thank you so much, Champ. I will let you jump if you need to. We're gonna try to find a raid target. I think we're probably just gonna go to KR and see
Y'all have fun now,
yeah, thank you. I hope that you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, I think we're gonna go over to KR unless anybody in chat has anybody else they want to see today. Let me give the raid calls out. Sub raid. Thank you everyone for tuning in and being a part of this. But yeah, I think we're just gonna raid over to KR Acoustic. Bethany. Well, thank you for lurking. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, everyone go check out Bethany. I know that she is often on streaming. I don't know if she's streaming right now, but she is a great musician and a good friend out of Rhode Island. And you should definitely go check out her music. It is great. I'm sure all the links are on that page over there. We're gonna head over to KR right now, grab a raid call if you'd like, and KR is awesome. And it's been a fun stream. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Yeah, we'll be back next week to talk about the conference championship games and some hockey stuff as well. And yeah, it should be so much fun. Thank you, Davey, for joining us